Whoa! I'm back. I did not think I was going to do this, but here I am, and it's been quite a while, and I finally have some gear that's got me excited about coming back into the world of YouTube and talking nonsense. Not a super long, definitive video today, as I have said many times in the past, but yet again, I've made a gear change, and I think for a lot of reasons this time. So let's get into it. I am shooting Lumix. I'm back to Micro Four Thirds. Kind of came out of nowhere, but I wanted to walk you kind of through my thought process and initial thoughts on the camera so far. So without beating around the bush, camera kicks total butt. It's awesome. This is the G9ii, and wasn't really on my radar when I thought about Micro Four Thirds. It's always been Olympus, OM Systems now, obviously, and that big, the 150 to 400 great white shark of a lens. Super cool, but super expensive. Like, really wasn't in the cards, still isn't. But I really like the openness of the Micro Four Thirds mount, and even the potential for other kits in the future, whether that's black magic cameras or some weird drones. It's cool. I just like the idea of lenses going back and forth. Initially, I started this channel when I got my Fuji X-H2S, and thank you to everybody who supported and followed, and I'm sorry if that's all you were interested in, and then I bailed on Fuji. Had lots of reasons, but I think like my passion for an alternate system is kind of what got me there in the first place. And after the last kind of year and a half, 2 years, I've been shooting Canon and Nikon. I have to say I'm really sick to death of them locking camera manufacturers out of the lens. And I understand from a business perspective, and both companies have cool lenses, but I always think it's funny when people compliment a camera company for making cool lenses that you can't afford. Like that new Sony 300 2.8, yeah, super cool. I don't have 10 grand for it though, so why does it matter? I appreciate that Canon has made all these kind of plastic, fantastic lenses. They are really good. I think Canon, as I'll get into in future videos, I think is still the biggest competitor to what I'm trying to do on the Micro Four Thirds system. About a year ago, my Z9 and my 500 fell into the lake. Luckily, I got them fixed, but I sold the camera, fully disclosed it to somebody who got a great deal on it, and hopefully it's still working for them. The lens, I had to have very expensive repairs, but luckily it was saved. But it really hammered home that as amazing as the 500 f4 was image quality, it was a total drag to shoot. It's not fun. It's not fun carrying it around. It's not fun hand holdable. And I missed so many shots because the lens was just so bulky. That old adage that the best camera you have is the one that you have with you, right? The 500 f4, I think, if I'm in a hide on a tripod, then yeah, a full frame camera, assuming the subject is close enough with a big fast prime, you're going to have a hard time beating that image quality. But for a lot of people, especially myself these days, that's not how I shoot. I'm very busy. It's part of the reason I've been away from YouTube. I've had a second kid. And when I do have time, I don't have the time to be lugging and dealing with tripods and gear and all this big stuff. A lot of my shooting now is if I'm out for a drive or if I'm able to go for a walk with my 2-year-old. Initially this started, I was looking at the S5 II, and big shout out to Lumix for just putting out this huge firmware update 2 days ago, of course 2 weeks after I buy into a kit. But the research I did had suggested that the S5 II the autofocus had come a long way. It was arguably one of the best systems for people, but for birds it was still kind of laggy. It wasn't quite doing the job that some of the other systems, especially that I've been shooting lately, have been doing. So I'd reached out to a few people, and I'd been talking to a couple people about options and looking on YouTube, and someone suggested the G9ii. So big Lumix guy, John Simo, shout out, thank you for all my pestering questions, because honestly, I don't even think I'd heard about the G9ii, and I wasn't plugged in. I haven't been following Micro Four Thirds, and when I have, my brain, I think like a lot of people, kind of started and stopped at Olympus. I was really interested in the OM1. When I got my Fuji X-H2S, I actually had an OM1 pre-ordered because I had been shooting an EM1X, and I had the fantastic 300 f4 lens. And I really liked Micro Four Thirds. I will make a lot of videos in the future on how to deal with the smaller sensor, because I think a lot of let's say, uneducated kind of gear snobs have this idea that like you can't do certain things with smaller sensors, and I would say it's a very, very short list of what you can't do. I was suggested the G9 II, and I hadn't really looked into it, but then I start digging and I see a couple big YouTube reviews, not a lot of people using it, but the reviews seemed pretty good. So for me, I looked at Micro Four Thirds and thought, initially I was looking at that OM Systems, the 150 to 600, but OM Systems has been kind of bugging me. That lens in particular, I just don't like it. I think it's way too expensive. For one, I'm not paying in Canadian Igloo dollars like almost $4,000 after taxes, or maybe even more after taxes, for a repurposed Sigma 150 to 600 Sport. Come on, like that is absurd. And you're talking this huge, gargantuan, heavy lens that, had it been built directly for Micro Four Thirds, it would have been engineered smarter and more interesting, and could have been faster, smaller, lighter. I think it's a cool lens in theory at half the price, but it's way overpriced. The reviews I've seen seem to say there's nothing fantastic about the image quality. A good lens that does a good job, but like some of the Canon lenses I'm griping on, it's just way too expensive for what it is. Comparing that again to things like the 300 f4, that's small, light, tack sharp, like very unique. That's the Olympus 300 f4 is a lens that you might change systems because it changes the way you shoot. And in a nutshell, that's how I got here to Lumix. I had been out of birds. I've been really frustrated. I've been very busy, as a dad with another new baby. I've had no time, and when I did have time and I picked up a 6-7 pound lens, it just wasn't fulfilling. I never brought it with me to work. I didn't bring it anywhere. And now after a week and a half of having the G9 II, I bring it everywhere. It fits into, I bought this big, huge, crazy bag like this big to fit the 500 f4 when I went to take pictures of puffins. And this is like the little lunchbox bag that came on top of this crazy, crazy bag to fit my big prime and everything. Well, this is the 1-400, and it's the size of my microphone. It's actually shorter than my microphone and a little thicker. Girth is what matters anyway, right? Good lens. Like, it's just so good. It's sharp. Again, I think you have to remember you are shooting a zoom, and you're going to have some of the trade-offs of that. And I also purchased the 200 2.8 after a week of trying this. And I find very different uses for them. So I'll get a lot more into that in the future. But look at this. I can fit this lens and the camera. I'm shooting on the 12 to 60 2.8 to f4. So I can fit all of that in here, and I package it up. And this is smaller than my water bottle. So like, I just throw this in my work bag. I take it with me. And I found already at work, if I have a long day in the office and an hour to spare, a couple times I've gone to the park and just gone for a walk after lunch and done some birding. Even I got lunch the other day, and there were a bunch of house sparrows in a tree outside the restaurant. And I thought, okay, I'll sit and take some pictures for 20 minutes. And I got like some really cool urban sparrow shots that I never would have had, because I never would have brought the 500 f4 to work unless I was dedicated going out shooting. And even if I had it, I would have felt very self-conscious in a big, busy parking lot with a big 500 millimeter on a monopod. Not to say I felt like nervous for my safety. It's just awkward. I just feel weird doing it. So having a small practical camera has truly been a game changer for me. A friend of mine suggested I get a little cotton carrier for it, and it's been great. I clip it right to my chest. I have 800 millimeters of fast autofocus, good image quality reach. I'm going to play a couple of clips here, maybe some video and some stills just to give an idea. And it's great. I go out for walks. I take it. I've got the reach. If you shoot it smart, and again, I will get more into this. I'm going to be covering a lot of this stuff on the channel. But if you shoot this stuff smart, you can get really, really awesome image quality out of these cameras. And it's amazing. The stabilization is amazing. The autofocus is really, really good. I'm never going to say it's a perfect camera. I think like I wish it took CF Express cards instead of V90 SDs. I got to buy new cards. That's annoying. But my quibbles are very, very small, and I hope it comes across. I just love this camera so much. It's so fun. The lenses are fun. Like, everything about this thing is just fun and easy to use. So yeah, I'm going to be back talking about it. If you've got questions about Micro Four Thirds and what to do and how to use this stuff, I think it's a really exciting system. I hope you're ready for more of this stuff. But yeah, the G9ii saved my wildlife photography, and now I'm back. And all I want to do is go out and take pictures of birds again because this camera is so much fun to use. So good job, Lumix, and everybody who's shooting, you should go get one. See you later.